Hello and welcome to Hot Topic. I'm Hugh Richards. Romania and Bulgaria have been members of the European Union since 2007, but only since the 1st of January this year have their citizens had the right to migrate to the United Kingdom, thus fully taking part in the free market in labour provided by EU membership. Many in this country and this region called for an extension of the bar, keeping Romanians and Bulgarians from the British labour market, some predicting a flood of migrants from southeastern Europe, perhaps as many as 250,000 people over 5 years. Among them, my guest, Roger Helmer, UKIP member of the European Parliament for the East Midlands, and Viorel Raducanescu, Romanian honorary consul to the City of Liverpool. Welcome to you both and thank you for coming along. Roger Helmer, may I start with you? Your party has resisted the idea of immigration coming into this country and wants to put limits on it and wanted to put a longer bar to the Romanian and Bulgarian migration that might occur here. But your party is also a free market party. There's a contradiction, it seems, between a free market in labour, in which anyone can move anywhere if there's somebody willing to pay them there, and a limit to the movement of people.
No, I don't think there's any contradiction. The concept in economics of free trade and free markets is well established, and it does not include movement of labour. If you go, say, to Milton Friedman, a man for whom I've got a great deal of time, he actually said you can have a welfare system or you can have open borders, but you cannot have both. And the reason is obvious, that if you've got big disparities in income, big disparities in welfare benefits and open borders, then there is an enormous incentive for people to move from poorer areas to richer areas to take advantage of the differential.
But I wasn't talking about welfare migration, people coming from, people moving from the UK to Romania or from Bulgaria to the UK for the sake of exploiting each other's welfare systems. I'm talking not of Milton Friedman, but of Adam Smith. If people are offering money to do a job which people native to this country don't want to do, but people from Bulgaria or Romania are happy to come here and do, that's a free market. You used to be a conservative. Norman Tebbit said, get on your bike. It's a long bike ride from Bucharest to Grimsby. But why is that freedom of movement to work where there's the offer of work? Why is that? Why do you oppose that?
Well, we're not opposed to immigration per se, nor are we interested in rules that discriminate between different ethnic groups or different nationalities. We are, however, interested in numbers and in skills. We are a small island. We're a very crowded island. We can cope with, let's say, 50,000 a year immigrants. We have great difficulty when the numbers get up to 500,000 a year, and that puts huge pressure on housing, health, schools, just about everything that we do. So the issue is not that we don't want immigrants, it's that we want immigrants who are relevant in terms of skills to the needs of our industry. Now, I've just been in Boston today, in Lincolnshire, where there has been a very significant problem of large numbers of immigrants, many of whom came to work, in seasonal agricultural work, for example, but have run into serious problems and are now sleeping in shop doorways and so on. Those are the sorts of problems that are encouraged by the sort of structures that we've created.
Honorary Consul, would you think that Romanians would want to come to this country either to take advantage of benefit systems or to sleep in shop doorways?
No, I don't think people would like to leave their hometown or the family behind to sleep rough or to have a poorer standard of living. I think basically there is no evidence actually for the first month, for the month of January, that there was any increase in the number of people from Romania coming to this country. And actually the statistics, I understand, it shows that in January 2013, a similar number of people moved through the border as it was in January 2014, similar number of Romanians.
If we're to assume that the numbers of Romanians who are moving to this country hasn't changed, particularly at the change of the law on the 1st of January, what jobs are they coming here to do? Why are they coming to this country? What attracts Romania about the United Kingdom?
Well, I think there are two. Well, the most important bit is obviously Britain is hugely respected in Romania, and the fact that English language through the aid of internet is basically more like what was in the past aimed to be achieved with Esperanto. Almost everybody speaks English these days. I think people find they feel that it's easy to come across and try to make a future for themselves. But my own experience and the people I know, they're mainly highly qualified people. And I attend the church, the Romanian church in Liverpool, where we have service every other Sunday. And most of the people, again, who attend there, they appear to be doing meaningful jobs in construction, or students, or highly educated people.
Roger Helmer, we have a precedent for European migration into this country in that in the early 90s, late 90s, we had a lot of Eastern Europeans from Northeastern Europe, the Poles especially, and they've been a tremendous success. Now there's again a free market point that if a Pole will fix your piping better than an Englishman and cheaper, it is free market economics, as you would advocate, that you employ the Pole, and he's welcome to come and do that job. And it is a disadvantage to a potential employer in England if there's a limit to that
well, you
immigration.
will recall that the government assured us that some 13,000 were anticipated, and in the end I think the number ran to about 500,000. So it's a question of numbers, it's a question of quantity. And can I stress another point? There are a lot of people, particularly in the media, and I'm thinking of the left-wing media like The Guardian, who insist that immigration is a right-wing issue. I'd like to argue to you it is not a right-wing issue. People in the leafy suburbs, who you might think of as more inclined to be right-wing, they benefit from immigration because, as you say, they get plumbers, they get cheap au pair girls, they get help with the housekeeping perhaps. The people who suffer are British people on low incomes with low skills who go to find a job, and they find, first of all, that there's a queue of immigrants ahead of them, and secondly, that they find that wages in those jobs have been held down because of the oversupply of labour. Now, great for the employer,
that is
very bad
as much
for the
to say
employee.
that the British person goes there with few skills and realises that because somebody else is better at it and will be cheaper than them at it, well, quite right that somebody else gets the job then. If somebody with more skill and who's offering to do it cheaper, it is a disadvantage for the unskilled British. But
well, if you like it,
that's what being unskilled means. You're at a disadvantage.
If you like to be in a country where there is a very large number of people unemployed, and especially very large numbers of young unemployed, that would certainly be the case. Now, you may say, and I'm sure you would be right to say, that we have a job to do in Britain to give people more skills to improve the education system. Those are all things that we ought to do. But it's a question of the shock value of very large numbers of people coming. Now, our colleague here has made the point that so far, and as we speak it's mid-February, so far rather few, or relatively few, seem to have come. A cynic might say that is because even the rules that preceded this latest change were so lax. For example, you could claim to be self-employed, come and sell the big issue, and claim benefits as well. So many people came beforehand. But what I would say to you is that 6 weeks is no basis on which to judge. Let's have the conversation after 12 months or 18 months, and we can draw a conclusion.
Well, Honorary Consul Roger Helmer makes a good point there, that there are English people who aren't as well qualified as Romanians. Perhaps we should be catching up. If you can just tell me in the last few seconds before the break, what's your estimate of the number of people who might be coming from Romania to the UK?
I don't know, and making a joke, if I would know the answer to this question, I would play lottery once, and that would be all. But no, I don't think there will be many. I mean, I think actually, I myself am working towards taking British companies into Romania and to generate employment there and profits for the British companies.
Thank you very much. We'll have to stop there just for a moment. We'll take a short break here. Please rejoin us in a couple of minutes. There's another issue with UKIP as well. It's a source of entertainment, and I don't mean that in a condescending way, but rather like Boris. It's a sort of an enlivenment and colour to British politics, but it does have, as David Cameron said in April 2006, that the party, that UKIP supporters are fruitcakes, loonies and closet racists. There's a harsh word. Welcome back. I'm talking to Roger Helmer, UKIP member of the European Parliament for the East Midlands, and Viorel Raducanescu from the Romanian Diplomatic Service. In 2000, when Bill Newton-Dunn, member of the European Parliament, resigned from the Tory party to go to the Liberal Democrats, when you were still a member of the Tory party, you suggested that he should resign his seat in the Parliament. In 2012, when you defected from the Tory party to join UKIP, you chose not to take that advice yourself.
Two halves of the answer. The first half of the answer is this, that at my selection meeting, my 3 selection meetings, in 3 occasions as a Conservative candidate, I honestly told the members what I believed, which was much more Eurosceptic than the party's line, the party leadership line, but they liked what they heard and they elected me on that basis, and I have not changed my view. Bill Newton Dunn, and forgive me for using the word, and he can sue me if he wants to, lied at his selection meeting about his views on Europe. He declared that
just for legal reasons, that's an allegation of yours, not of this programme.
Indeed,
continue.
yes, but there are hundreds of witnesses who heard him do it. He said that he was behind the party's policy of a broadly Eurosceptic stance, and clearly he was not. And he left on those grounds. So I would say he misled the people who selected him. I did not. The other half of the answer is I agree that normally when a parliamentarian changes parties, I believe he should leave. That was my firm intention. It was the result of the Conservative Party co-chairman at the time, Saeed Abbasi, who refused to implement the normal accepted process of replacement of a leaving MEP with the next name on the candidate list. She chose not to do that, and we had a standoff where I said, I'm not going to confirm my resignation until you confirm the succession, and she said, there's no succession until you've formally resigned. And that was the reason that I stayed on.
But if you have a local party, a local Conservative party that selected you and then continued to support your get Britain out of Europe policies and aspirations, then those Conservative members of the local party were effectively UKIP members. Is that a sort of a fifth column of UKIP members within the rank and file workers of the Conservative
They're not
Party?
UKIP members, but it's certainly the case that a great many Conservatives, voters, party members, activists, are much more strongly Eurosceptic than the leadership. And I know that they were voting, even when I was standing for the Conservatives, some of those Conservative supporters were actually voting UKIP in the European elections.
So there are Conservative Party officials who vote UKIP?
There have been, yes, they have spoken to me, councillors who've told me.
There's another issue with UKIP as well. It's a source of entertainment, and I don't mean that in a condescending way, but rather like Boris. It's a sort of an enlivenment and colour to British politics, but it does have, as David Cameron said in April 2006, that the party, that UKIP supporters are fruitcakes, loonies and closet racists. Those are harsh words, and yet just within the last few months, your colleague, or your ex-colleague now, Godfrey Bloom MEP, was forced out of the party, having spoken of the Third World as Bongo land, and then rather eclipsing Nigel Farage, your leader at the party conference, by talking about some of the women he was with as sluts. A little later than that, David Sylvester, UKIP councillor down in Henley, I think, in Oxfordshire, said that the local flooding was caused by the government's legislation to ratify gay marriage. There is a bit of a fruitcake element in your party.
Well, I understand those points, and of course I don't agree with either of the comments that you've quoted, nor do most people in UKIP. But the fact is that you can go through any party and find outrageous statements. For some reason, the media seem much more interested when we do it. Take Councillor Sylvester. He joined us only fairly recently from the Conservatives. He had previously expressed this bizarre view about the punishment of God. As a Conservative, nobody responded. He moved to join UKIP, he repeated what he said before, and suddenly it's a news story.
Well, it's a bizarre view, whichever party it is, but Godfrey Bloom, who's in this part of the world is one of our own MEPs, now an independent, he was very close to the high command of the party and very much part of the tradition of the party.
He was part of the tradition of the party. We're an insurgent party. We tend to attract colourful characters and a swashbuckling style, and I think people like us because they know we say what we think, whereas one of the criticisms of the old parties is you listen to them on the television, you know they don't believe what they're saying and you don't believe them. Now the flip side of saying what we think is that some of our members occasionally say things that cause a little frisson of excitement in the media. But I think we are growing, we are becoming more professional, and we've made it clear that we do not want people in the party who say things that are clearly unacceptable to a broad swathe of public opinion.
Honorary Consul, do you have politicians like this in Romania?
Well, I left the country 16 years ago, and I am not fully aware, but yes, I believe, like everybody, there are colorful characters in all parties all around the world.
Well, it's not just colourful characters. Romanian politics is an exciting affair, to say the least, and there are extremes, ideological extremes in Romanian politics that we might not recognise in this country. There's a sort of a centrist element to the government as it is, but there are some quite extreme parties in Bucharest.
Well, as I said, I don't. Some of the stuff they're saying may be lost in translation, but no, I wouldn't call them extreme. I am not certain that would do them justice. Maybe there are, but I am not really certain about this.
It's
if you have someone in mind,
it would not be for me to pry into private grief as a foreigner. But it's 25 years since the fall of Ceausescu. Those dramatic pictures we all remember, those of us who are old enough remember from Christmas Day. The Romanian economy has gone through its transition period. So why is it that there is likely to be, if it happens, to be a migration from Romania to this country, to Great Britain? Why should it not be the other way around? Why is the Romanian economy not attracting British people?
I don't know. In early 90s, someone made an interesting comment that people can vote either at the polling station or they can vote with their feet, leaving the country. So I would say that for the moment, people are not voting with their feet. And the economy is... it was a difficult legacy of the past, and there may be not sufficient people, managers, to take over and to take on the challenges of the Romanian economy, which was very much integrated in the communist states type of economy.
Roger Helmer, you know a little bit about this part.
Indeed. There are two clear reasons why large numbers of British people do not go to Romania. The first is that it is, let's be honest, a poorer country, and wage rates are lower and so on, so that makes it less attractive. But the other point is one which our colleague has already made. Virtually everybody speaks English, or most people in Europe can speak English a bit. Very few people in England can speak Romanian. And this is one of the imbalances in the European policy. Britain is a magnet for people from all across Europe because most of them speak English, whereas most English people don't speak Finnish or Serbian or whatever the language happens to be.
Well, I will just point out that anybody who speaks a Romance language, French, Portuguese, Spanish, Italian, will also find it fairly easy to speak Romanian and vice versa. And any educated Englishman who's had any Latin at all can do the same. Roger Helmer, just one final point to you. Your leader, Nigel Farage, who is always an absolute media tart, always in the television studios, he says that the great advantage that UKIP has over other parties is that they're in touch with the people and that the other parties are not in touch with the people. Is it a political leader's job to be following the opinion of the people, or should the political leader be making that opinion, coming to a judgment and trying to persuade the majority of that, rather than just claiming that it's a virtue to happen to share what the majority thinks?
No, well, can I start with the media tart? Really, it's the media's fault. We in UKIP are desperate to get more people on the television, and I'm afraid the BBC say, no, we want Nigel, it's box office.
He's welcome. All of you are welcome here whenever you want.
Well, thank you very much. But on the more general point, no, I don't believe that political leaders should slavishly follow the views of the public. But where those views coincide with the views of the party, then I think you have a perfect combination. I think that's what we've got. We believe in common sense. The British people believe in common sense. That is why so many people are turning to UKIP.
Roger Helmer, MEP, Viorel Raducanescu, thank you both very much for coming. I hope we'll see you again. And that's all we have time for on this hot topic. Please tune in next week for the next one. Until then, goodbye.